Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here to review Rambo First Blood Part 2. They couldn't have just called it Rambo More Blood, or Rambo Second Blood, or maybe they could have even gone on with a kind of a thing that people are going to take away from this movie, like Rambo Blood, I'm coming for you. They could have called it that. That would have been more interesting, but unfortunately, that's not the title. And it really goes on and kind of leaves a kind of a weird taste in my mouth when saying the title of this movie, because numbers. So after going on and watching this film, I can't help but realize that so many people have ripped off this bad boy that I am to just be in just a godsmack of just like, oh my god, this is incredible. So, and I'm talking about big, massive, huge movies going on and blatantly copying and pasting from this movie. So let's bring it up. The first bigger one I feel is X-Men Origins Wolverine. If you watch that film, straight up there is a helicopter fight scene. There is to, of course, be Colonel, you wanted the animal, you got it. Kind of like in this film, we have Murdoch, I'm coming for you. It's the same thing. It's the same exact thing. If you basically look at the Wolverine origin film and you look at this movie, you can copy and paste too many things. Wolverine gets a love interest in that film, which eventually that character ends up getting played out within the movie in the same exact fashion of the way of which that Rambo and Co. Play out within this film, identically, in too many ways. So, I was to go on and just have just so much enjoyment from X-Men Origins Wolverine, whatever that title was. But now I'm going on and realizing that it's not that unique. And I'm like, I like that movie so much so, but now it's ruined it. It's been ruined. Then we go on and we get into Tropic Thunder. Tropic Thunder is basically a copy and paste from this film also. There's a scene where Ben Stiller with the bandana is just kind of hanging there yelling cut in the movie. Really, there is a scene within this film where we can go on and feel that that's very similar. You can obviously go on and look at stuff like Platoon. You will easily point out to me the Hot Shots sequel, where we have Charlie Sheen with the rooster bow and arrow thing. Very much a much more parody, but it's not like a thing that I would just say, oh, it's just a copy. It's a parody, so that's a different kind of thing altogether. Like, it's obviously to do it in a very joking manner. And what have you. So, yeah, it is same, but if anything, it's because it's trying to make fun of this movie. Other than that, like, let me know in the comments below if there could be any other comparisons to this film. I'm sure there probably is somewhere. But anyways, so Rambo First Blood Dose is to really, I think, be a movie that is to be a much longer thing that is to need to build with not a lot of importance in it. And then, like, there is little, I think, takeaway from this movie compared to the first movie, which I feel is a lot more iconic and is to have at some point its own little kind of takeaway of catchphrases that I think are much more impactful than stuff like, Murdoch, I'm coming for you. Yeah, like, that would be a big takeaway, but ultimately, like, it doesn't have as much impact as stuff as the first one. Or also we'd go on to have Trotman, who goes on and says, the thing you call hell, he calls home. Yeah, like that. Is to be really cool. But yeah, but like when you get in the first movie where it's like you get the, I'll give you a war you never believe, or uh, or you get the whole like they drew first blood and all these kind of more impactful kind of takeaways. But uh, but yeah, so within this movie we have Rambo that starts off in prison because of the aftermath of the first film. You can't go around and mow down some cops and then uh, gallivanting around with a gun in a city and expect you're not going to get prison time after that. So Rambo goes on and is in this prison, but for a skill set like him and all the stuff that he knows, he's not going to be there for long, of course. So Trotman comes in to speak with Rambo and is telling him, hey, yeah, like, I got this mission for you. You're the only one that has seemed to have been more familiar with this area than anyone else. And if you go into doing this mission, you'll get a pardon. And so Rambo is like, well, it's either get this pardon or stay in prison. At least Rambo is to go on and say that him being in prison, at least he knows where he is, or he knows where he stands. But anyways, so Rambo goes on and takes this mission, and then we have a lot of stuff that is not to be important to have to break down within this story, but they have to be forced to go through it all anyways. So, like, we would go on to have when Rambo meets up with Murdoch, Murdoch has to run through Rambo's entire resume and then his own resume, and then Murdoch is going on and turning to Trump and is like, is Rambo even listening? Do we even have, as an audience, to need to listen to any of this? Not really, because it doesn't seem important enough for anybody, but for some reason, at least Rambo was listening to this. So, the more important thing of it is that Murdoch is to mention to, of course, Rambo, that his actual mission is to go off to this Vietnamese camp and just take pictures, which is like, you could have gone on and had anybody do that. Why specifically Rambo go on and do a crap mission like this that he's overqualified for? But of course, when Rambo is to go on and make his way through this mission, he creates his own and decides that he's going to go on to rescue these POWs. And regardless of the wasting resources that Murdoch and people are going to go on and do consistently and continue to abort missions and not help him, Rambo then goes on to inevitably be like, well, hey, if you're not going to help me, I'm going to help myself. And if anything, Trotman goes on of like, well, hey, never count out Rambo. Because, yeah, you'd be wrong. Because in the first film, Trotman is like, well, yeah, get a good supply of body bags. And this one, like, Trotman doesn't have much of takeaway lines that are to be threatening of Murdoch in this film. I think as menacing as the first one was. So, except for the maybe whole, like, what you call hell, he calls home thing, but still. Rambo goes on to inevitably find these POWs and tries to obtain one as, I guess, a sign of life that there are POWs here, so that way he can go on and rescue one in hopes that they'll go on and continue to rescue the rest of them. Banks, at one point, the POD is to mention about how they get moved around so often within this film, and it's lucky that Rambo was there when they were. So, Rambo inevitably goes on to hope that Murdoch is at least going to help him to pick him up. And when they completely abandon the mission and leave Rambo to be tortured and left for dead, Rambo is like, no, I'm going to survive because I have my good luck knife and I just have the will to finish my mission, and no one is going to tell me otherwise. So, not Podofsky, not Murdoch, not anyone. So, Rambo goes on to inevitably, after being tortured and left for dead, Rambo finds that Ko hasn't given up on him, and Ko is going on and actually going to help Rambo out. Ko is going to be Rambo's guide throughout this, even though Rambo should not actually need a guide. But still, like, he has one. So, Ko, we find, wants to go on and leave this place that is always filled of war and think that America could be better off for her. And Rambo is like, well, yeah, like, I could probably take you with me. Like, if I'm going on and I'm taking all these POWs with me, I might as well take her, because of eventually the kiss that they share between one another tells me that this is going somewhere. So, and plus also, I'm sure that Rambo is very appreciative that she came back to rescue him. So, that was good. So, Rambo goes on after some blood and some loss. I don't know how really cryptic I should actually be here, because if I've been talking about Ko for such a long time, you may know where this is going. But anyways, so Rambo is to be the guy who has been tortured and left for dead, and things have just gone way too far, to where Rambo is to want to find every single Vietnamese/Russian soldier and take every one of them out. If he has to go on and go down to his knife and slice through every piece of them to make sure they're dead, Rambo will go on and do that at this point, for how just crazed this man has become, and how the odds have been stacked so against him that he is to want nothing more than just to defy the odds anyways, because he's freaking Rambo. So, like, we just have straight up berserker rage when it comes, if we want to throw in a Wolverine thing with Rambo. And Rambo is going on and mowing everybody down, and we're loving it. We're loving how much explosions are going on, how much he's going to go on and meet up with Podofsky by the end of this, and there's the helicopter battle, and how Rambo is going to try to get the better of everybody and then come back for Murdoch after he goes on and either gut kicks or nut kicks Erickson. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm glad to see that you're back. No sweeping of the leg this time around now, Erickson. Cobra Kai so I don't know what I was saying there. So I guess there is mercy in this dojo. I don't know. I'm just blurting out. No crane kick today. So, I don't know. Karate Kid, I have to reference, I guess. So, uh, because he was in that thing too. Erickson was not Sly or Stallone here. So, Rambo meets up with Murdoch, and just the way that since this mission had come to pass, and you would think that Rambo is going to slice and dice this Murdoch guy. Instead, he puts the fear in God in him to just be like, I'm going to make sure that you go on, you find every single person that has ever gone missing. Or, if anything, you're going to go missing because I'm going to find you. And then Rambo goes on and rides off to the sunset. And an enjoyable movie had by all. With explosions and big, huge, massive guns being thrusted in the air and yelling, ha! Just the aggressiveness of this character is to be the best part of it, even though I am to go on and still much more enjoy the first film. I can't help but go on and just be like, yeah, like this movie is uh like I love characters that go on and show aggression and anger, and like when you think that they should be down and out, they find a freaking way. Like they will move heaven on earth to go on and 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 do what in their minds needs to be done. And I can really appreciate this movie for going on and giving me that. Um, and I always like uh, the kind of the man pushed too far kind of stories. That's why I can always enjoy stuff like Mad Max or uh, just any of these kind of like The Crow um, or any of these just kind of other just kind of old fashioned like Death Wish kind of things. Because there is to always be uh, these people that want to go on and want to uh, be driven to a point of that white hot rage and like be pushed into another level. So that makes him this unstoppable force. So with that said, yeah, I enjoyed this movie. I would go on and say that Rambo First Blood Part 2, uh, this movie is so much like waiting for the good part to happen. Uh, I'll say surprisingly, the Rambo First Blood Part 2, I don't know if I can exactly say that it is a great film, but uh I'll go with I feel like I'm going to regret saying that. Um I feel that Rambo First Blood Part 2 is a solid good movie that is to be almost great. It's almost great. Just because of the way of the movie being an hour and 30 minutes, and it feels like we're only getting uh, a lot of the good stuff till the very later part of the movie, and it's a long wait for that. Um, compared to, I think, the first film, where I think it builds a lot earlier and it's more interesting, um, in my mind. Plus, also, like, First Blood Part 2, like, after the first one, all the other ones kind of blend together. I don't remember much of them. They're not as memorable. And also, like, a movie like this probably isn't as much memorable or much of a takeaway after a certain bit of time, in my opinion, compared to the first. So that's probably why I feel that way of grading this movie. Uh, like, if you looked at like Escape from New York or Escape from LA or whatever, like, if you look at those films, very similar, very much similar to this. Uh, like, if you look at so many other kind of action movies in general, like, you can look at Predator and look at and it's kind of in the same um, way of approaches, but um, for this movie, uh, there are still things that stick out. But it'll probably be the huge gun firing in the air with Rambo yelling is the big takeaway from this movie, more than anything else. So, with that said, let's go on and let's get into this movie. Is available on Pluto TV, I guess, for free. I think that app doesn't have a subscription, so you can check it out there. Um, Other than that, yeah, like, if you realize that Pluto TV is not for you, then there are a number of other bootleg apps that if you go on, and you probably go into other reviews that I've done, especially like stuff like new release things, I'll probably go on and I will offer like a number of different kind of bootleg apps. But there, in fact, I would probably go on and suggest Pluto TV because I guess it's free there. But anyways, so with that said, future reviews. So I obviously thought that I was going to go on and do Spider Noir at some point, but I probably have maybe given up on that. If anything, there's probably a number of shows which that I kind of wanted to do, but I'm not quite sure if they're going to get done. If anything, I was going on and being tempted to watch Macaulay Culkin movie, The Page Master. That's a kind of a strange film that has a small bit of runtime, so I thought I could go on and kind of crank that movie out at some point. There is a lot of action movies that I do want to cover on this channel, because I feel that there is still a good number of them left over. There's also some good superhero stuff that I can still comb through and still eventually get into. Birds of Prey, that show comes to mind. There is a number of large amount of projects that I'm still trying to hope that I can do on this channel, but I don't want to give so many promises that will never come to fruition or will take way too long. 48 Hours was a project that I did want to go on and cover and get to. Deep Rising was a thing that I was definitely saying that I was going to cover soon, but it doesn't seem like that's going to happen today. Maybe it'll be done tomorrow or the next day. I have no idea. But anyways, so hence why I don't want to guarantee things, because it's all about whatever I can get actually done on the actual day. But with that said, let's go on and let's say that it's about that time yet again. Spoiler time, it's about that time to get spoiled this movie. Let me know in the comments below what has been your favorite action film or even Sylvester Stallone movie. And more than likely, I may have probably heard of it. Probably. But if anything, if you probably go through Stallone's IMDb and just mention a random one, that'll just be like, really? That'll just be a waste. But anyways, this movie at least was really fun to watch. I really had a good time watching this. It was a good experience. I feel that eventually I will probably have to comb through a lot of the Rambo films, or whatever is left of them, because I feel that at some point, some of the sequels are very impactful. I think I did go through um, a Rocky film, which I think is the very first one. I think at least. Yeah, Demolition Man's. There's a lot of other kind of Stallone movies that exist out there. If anything, you can kind of scroll through the action um, movie genre things and just kind of see what's plopped down in there. Anyways, with that said, I think it's about that time to just go through scene for scene, blow for blow of this film. Uh, if anything, I really appreciate everybody who's been just kind of plopping down comments lately because it really does help out the video. It helps out me know that people exist out there. And sometimes actually the comments are either informative or they're just kind of funny and I really enjoy them. And plus also I just like that at least the comments are actually positive lately. I've been really happy about that. So if anything, I think it's about that time to just go into this and cover it. So, the very beginning of the piece of the film, spoilers everybody, here's where we have the prison scene. So, we have at one point where Rambo is going on and having this rock axe uh, slamming scene. And so one of these cops pulled Rambo aside and has him go to the fence to meet up with Trotman. So Trotman goes on and mentions about how he wants to take Rambo out of this hellhole, and Rambo's like, well, yeah, like I think I'm kind of fine. At least here I know where I'm at. So Trotman goes on and gives his whole mission to Rambo in the Far East, and it's to try and find some POWs and do some recon and make his way to Vietnam. So Trotman goes on and tells Rambo that the risk is to be very high, which for Rambo it's like, come on, really? You even have to go on and you even have to mention that. So Trotman goes on and says that this time around, at least the mission success will be up to Rambo. As Rambo ends up asking, it's like, well, hey, are we going to win this time? And Trotman's like, well, that's up to you. So obviously, Rambo goes on and takes this mission that he is to be a rare few who could be chosen to do this. So we then cut to Rambo getting off of this helicopter, where of course he's to be welcomed by Erickson. Uh, Erickson ends up calling Rambo the chosen one, and I thought that was funny. And so they go into the operations, and here's where Murdoch, within his glasses, just start plopping down and talking about Rambo's resume, and then goes on and divvies up his own resume at some point. So but Murdoch goes on and mentions that the mission is for Rambo to just take photographs, to not initiate with the enemy. He's just to go on and go to this camp and just get photos. So they go on and they mention about how he's going to be dropped down there, and then like 36 hours later they are going to pick him up if something doesn't go problematic within those 36 hours. So Rambo goes on after listening to Murdoch is to look at this map and just kind of glances it over. So Trotman starts talking to Rambo about the mission, about if Rambo uh, can do this mission because if anything, he's going in here by himself. And if anything, that's not really true because he's going with Co, so that's not really by himself. So that already doesn't make any sense. So, but Tropman is telling Rambo to not play the whole blood and guts routine as Rambo is so used to, and for technology just to kind of take over here because he's just taking photos. Basically telling him it's like, hey, like I know what you're used to doing, but hey, this is an easy mission. This can get you a pardon. This could get you out. But that's not how Rambo works. It's not how Rambo works. So, and uh, and so Trotman is going on and telling Rambo to forget about the war, forget about his past. And let me pause here for a second. And Rambo goes on to be asking Trotman, it's like, wait a minute, like, tell me to forget about the war? It's like, well, I'm alive, it's alive, so if anything, there's nothing to forget. So, so Rambo comes in with Murdoch, and they're mentioning about all the huge amount of equipment that they're going to use within this mission to really say how important Rambo is to them. But Rambo already knows that he's expendable, that them saying that they have all this equipment specifically for his mission alone is bullshit. Like, it's not the truth. Like, they just had all this stuff to do anything um, because they've not just set up this bit of technology just for um, Rambo's mission alone, like they're to have set up base to do ultimately other things. If anything, Rambo is not the unique and beautiful snowflake that Murdoch is trying to tell him he is right here with the whole technology thing. So, as Rambo starts walking around, we have Murdoch that turns to Trop and is saying, like, is he even listening to whatever I'm saying? And then Rambo starts to repeat back what Murdoch had said to him. So Murdoch ends up asking Trotman or Trotman if Rambo is still unbalanced from the war, and that if he could crack under the pressure. And Trotman's like, well, that's when he throws the whole what you call hell, he calls home thing right back at him. And so we have Erickson setting up uh, the plane or the jet with a guy who has blonde hair and glasses named Lifer, which wasn't easily to be found within IMDb, so I had to look it up later. Also, kind of once you get to some of the other characters, it's kind of hard to find like Banks, the focused POW, so I had to kind of look that up also. But anyways, so I think I didn't find it anywhere in the IMDb right away. So plus also there are some side characters that I don't think I remember the name of that well, but anyways, it doesn't matter. So as they're going on and they're setting everything up, Rambo is going through his armory, his weaponry, and putting everything together. Putting uh, bullets in his guns, uh, sheathing his knives, and everything in between. Uh, Looking up sights in his guns, putting film in the camera, which he'll never use. Hey, I'm doing more things here. The classic, just like it's kind of like the Batman movies where they would have to go on and show that like Batman just kind of moves around and you see like a bit of his body armor going on, and they have to do that part of the film and just waste that time. But anyways, so but the thing that's best set up here is that Rambo has these explosive arrow tips, and he closes the thing, and it says explosives on it to make sure that people know how dangerous these arrow tips are. And then Rambo sharpens his knife. So, as Trotman and Rambo get ready to the jet, the big takeaway from this is that Rambo is to correct what Murdoch had said, and then eventually turns to Trotman and says, "Hey, you're the only one I trust." So Rambo goes on and leaves, and so Trotman ends up asking Murdoch if Rambo will go on to probably find any POWs or anything really there. And Murdoch is to say doubtful. Within this bit of just dialogue between both Murdoch and Trotman, we can already tell that Murdoch has already written off Rambo and is hoping that he dies as quickly as this mission could start, so that way they don't have to waste more resources on specifically him. So, and also Murdoch is mentioning about how this wasn't his war, that Rambo is going on a mission on, that he's just there to clean up the mess of it. So, again, uh, not something that Murdoch really wants to be a part of. So, as they show all the flashy radars, and as Trotman is going on and drinking off of his coffee mug, we have at a point where Lifer is going on and telling Rambo like when to get ready, that there's blinking lights of such. So Rambo goes on and puts on his helmet, and Erickson and Lifer are kind of giving calls and such. So Rambo goes on and jumps out of the plane and ends up getting stuck because there is to be uh, this bit of tie that he was to have been connected to that does not detach, so that way he could just parachute off. So Rambo is now stuck to the side of the plane, and everybody's just talking about how much that they want to just abort. And Lifer doesn't seem that he knows exactly what to do when he's right next to Rambo. Like, couldn't he have just gone on and taken a knife and cut what Rambo was tied to? No. Lifer just leaves it up to Rambo, hoping that he'll figure it out. Because Lifer just watches as Rambo is going to get thrashed against this plane. So Rambo goes on and cuts away his equipment, and then cuts away the thing tying him to this plane, and then Rambo is disappeared. So after that is to have all happened, and Lifer yells to Erickson that he's out, we immediately have Murdoch's and Trotman that are going on and even having or Murdoch is really thinking that Rambo is probably already dead. That there's no way a guy like that could have survived that kind of issue, and more likely, yeah, like they're going to waste their time thinking that he's still alive and take a helicopter to try and retrieve him 36 hours later. And again, it seems that Murdoch is wanting to quick write everything off here. So Tropman is telling Murdoch, hey, well, like, let's wait and see if after 36 hours Rambo can still be alive or be able to complete his mission. And let's not write him off so quickly. And if anything, let's see if he can reach the extraction point. So it's like we owe him at least that because of what we've already caused problems for him. So Murdoch feels obligated to be like, well, I guess Tropman, if you're pushing me, then yeah, I guess we have to just wait and see. So Rambo seemingly is in good condition, and he has made a miraculous recovery here of being able to uh, make it to Vietnam, and seemingly be making it through this jungle. So, as Rambo is to go on and obtain certain pieces of his arsenal, at one point there is to be a snake that slithers behind him within this tree. Rambo grabs it, realizes that it's a snake, and he's like, oh. So he just kind of pushes it away and then continues to walk on. Rambo comes to find a bunch of statues that are to be like, I would go in and I would look at it and I would call it like very Buddha-ish or Buddha similar, but it's not. But if anything, it when you look at a Buddha statue, you can look at this and just feel that it's very much like a similarity to that. But anyways, because if anything, I don't want to insult anybody by being wrong. So Rambo continues to go through these statues to then go on and see that an individual with a hat is kind of combing through this part of the jungle. Rambo goes on to follow said person, grab them from behind, and grab out his knife to then create a pause, and we come to find out that this is none other than a woman, and this is to be Ko. Ko goes on and like, are you Rambo? And so they start speaking together, and then Rambo puts his guard down, and Rambo's like, well, I wasn't expecting a woman. So Ko ends up telling Rambo, it's like, well, yeah, like you came like kind of late. Yeah, like he really had some trouble getting here. So Ko and Rambo make their way through this little village, and Rambo is kind of a little kind of unsure about everything because Ko, it seems, is using pirates instead of anything else. And Ko is like, well, yeah, like if anything, these people will go on and take our money and do what we want. So if anything, yeah, like they're the best. They're the best go-to here. They're the most that we can trust to get us on this boat and get us to this area. So Coe and Rambo make their way to this boat and pay off this man. And Rambo starts looking around and starts to see a woman. It looks like almost bathing herself because she's in this towel, and Rambo just continues starts to look around. So they get in the boat, and so Rambo goes on to question about how these pirates can really defend themselves if anything goes wrong. And then they start to reveal these secret compartments that have these rocket launchers and have all of this weaponry that they're unsheathing in these hidden compartments. And I was like, oh, okay. So we now cut back to uh, Trotman and Murdoch. So, oh my bad. Let me pause here for a second. Yeah, I think there's a scene there where like Trotman is kind of looking at some photographs and stuff like that. But it cuts back to here. So Coe asks Murdoch or Coe asks Rambo if he wants to eat anything, and Rambo says no. As the two of them start talking, Rambo is to mention the necklace that Coe has. And she inevitably says that it's a lucky charm. Rambo says that the knife that he has is to feel like it's a lucky charm. And so, also within here, Rambo brings up the prior movie, how he'd go on to say about when he went back to the States, he had faced off against what he would call a quiet war. So, man, if that's a quiet war, then what's a noisy one? So, uh, so Coe is mentioned about how there's too much death here. There's death everywhere, and if anything, the reason why she had gone to this mission is because of her father being killed. So, Coe, looking at Rambo, is starting to think about how maybe the quiet life or a quiet war would be a lot more enticing, and it is asking what Rambo wants from life. And Rambo breaks down it in a simplistic way of he wants to win, he wants to survive, and and if you want to survive a war, you have to become a war, or you have to become war. And says about how he's expendable. The whole expendable thing comes up so often in this movie that I can probably understand why Stallone eventually came up with Expendables within that franchise. Basically, you can look at Expendables and probably think that the origin of that came from this somehow, some way. But Stallone said that the origin of Expendables was for him to go to a concert at one point and realize that there was a lot of big bands that were all playing their greatest hits all in one concert, and that's how he came up with the Expendables movie. But yeah, you can't help but think that maybe the origins of Expendables probably came up here somewhere. Stallone also mentioned that the movie called The Hunted that had Tommy Lee Jones and had Del Toro in it. Yeah, the the guy who was in the werewolf or the Wolfman remake. Tommy Lee Jones, that movie. was actually, I guess, supposed to be a Rambo film that just never came to be, so they made The Hunted instead. So that is a kind of interesting bit of fact there. So we could have had some other Rambo movie that could have been what The Hunted was. So that's kind of fascinating. So, so anything back with this whole expendable thing. So Ko doesn't know what expendable means, and so Rambo tries to say how uh, when you're invited to a party and no one really cares if you get there, you're expendable. So later on in the movie, Ko tells Rambo that he's not expendable, but for how many times that he goes into all these missions, you can't help but think that that is a possibility. But it's also you can't say that he's expendable because he's the title name of movie. If Rambo gets killed in one of these films, they don't make no more Rambos anymore. Or they go on and they have, weirdly enough, Rambo has a daughter or son, I think that happens at some point in sequel of films somewhere, or he has a relative Rambo or something like that, that I think ends up being a thing by the later movies, of which that I barely remember, but I had gone on to actually see. Um, and man, it gets to the point in those way later sequels that Rambo is to go on and be so far different than what any of this early stuff was to go on and be. And yeah, like it just really is to either feel cheap or really just feel like, why are you still doing these? Um, yeah, sad but true. So, uh, so Trotman goes on to make his way to Murdoch to see if there's any update or any kind of further thing that he needs to be aware of or alert of. And Murdoch is telling him no further reports are coming in. So Trotman wants to go with both Leifer and Erickson to retrieve Rambo. And Murdoch is like, denied. No, you're not going. You're not going to extract him. If anything, if it were me, Trotman, and Rambo is who immediately said, "Hey, you're the only one I trust," you would honestly would have thought that Trotman would have been through the whole time just being like piggyback with Rambo, either during this whole entire mission or would have just gone on and just been with him a good chunk of the time to make sure that everything was on level and that everything was going to go right. Um, but yeah, but like just Trotman is to be uh, saying that he's going to go on and be a part of this extraction team, but then the extraction team is going to get aborted anyways when we get there. So, but anyways, Murdoch is saying how a good man Trotman is uh, by being willing to be a part of this extraction team, this rescue team that will never go on and never actually see the light of day. Really, they'll get so fingertip close, but won't fully get there. Uh, because when Murdoch is to find out that Rambo has a POW, immediately Murdoch is like, "Oh no! Like we don't want a POW to be found because that forces us to spend more resources to find more of these forgotten soldiers. We don't want to do that. No, 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 no. We don't want to spend the government's money finding these people. Oh no! Like why would we want to do that?" So, because if anything, they've already wasted so much resources aborting missions. So the boat finally is to get to a place where both Ko and Rambo can now get off of it and make their way into this camp. So, slowly but surely, they start to comb through this camp and they make it to this gate where they come to find that there are, I guess there's only one way to say this. There are, well, I get, yeah, there is multiple ways, but the movie says it one facet of ways. There are women that are to go on and be paid for adult favors that it seems that this camp continues to have being put within it via village somewhere nearby. So these women come in, and immediately these soldiers start looking them up and down and start touching them all over their bodies because it's like, well, hey, these women get paid for these services anyway, so I guess we should just take full advantage of this because these guys are awful anyways. So when seeing that, Ko will eventually take it upon herself to take full advantage of this situation later on, and that's how eventually she finds a way to sneak into the base in the later part of the film, which is actually pretty brilliant that they wrote this part of the movie in. So, so Rambo is going to sneak inside the base and not allow Ko to go further in with him. And Ko starts to say, like, well, hey, like, aren't you going on and aren't you just taking pictures? Shouldn't you be following your orders? And Rambo's like, no more orders. So Rambo gets to a barbed wire fence and he takes a knife to break into said barbed wire fence. So Rambo starts to sneak around and there is at a point where Rambo is right underneath uh, a camp house that has both uh, paid adult servicewoman, whatever, and soldier who are going on and getting into some activities. So, some activities, yeah, whatever. So, Rambo at some points gets his blade out. I think he does eventually have to go on and knife down some people. And so Rambo goes on to find this cell that has all these POWs. We start to see that a spider is crawling on top of one of them, and the guy who has the spider crawling on top of him is doing nothing because of how much he's struggling to breathe and how just sick he is. So Rambo finds that there is to be one of the POWs who is tied to an X, and so Rambo frees him and tells him we're getting out of here. So there's this back and forth of Stallone going on and carrying this guy or kind of dragging him along with him. And it's kind of inconsistent, but if anything, like, I'm just like, yeah, like, I'm sure this guy has no muscle whatsoever to really get around. But anyways, so there is at one point where there is a guy either on a bridge or a tower that is to get his light out and is to start scanning around. And inevitably both Rambo and Banks, who's to be the POW, is to evade being spotted. So here's where Rambo throws out a knife to one of the guards and kills him and has them drop down to the water. So Ko is to now be hiding away from some Vietnamese soldiers herself to avoid getting spotted. So there is to be another tower that has this light that does go on and spot both Rambo and Banks, and Rambo takes it out with, or takes the guy out with an arrow and kills him. So we now have a guy named Tay who's one of the soldiers. He overhears some commotion going on and pops his head outside of his camp house. So starts looking around, and both Rambo and Banks are underneath this same building, and the prostitute of which that is to be with Tate starts touching him and is like kind of putting her leg on his, and it's to force him back into like, oh well, it must have been nothing, I'll go back in there and get more of my loving. So finally Rambo, Banks, and Co reunite together, and so like, hey, let's get the F out of here. So at this point it is now daybreak. There is to be bells and whistles that are be going throughout this camp to signify that, hey, we've started to see that these bodies are now dead. If anything, a rotation of probably guards have been getting rotated in, and they're starting to notice that people are now dead now. So everybody's scrambling within the Vietnamese camp, and also Erickson, Troutman, and Leifer are scrambling together to get their extraction resources together. So Erickson immediately again trying to be the bad guy here is mentioning like, well, hopefully we don't waste fuel to try to rescue this guy, because more than likely he's probably dead anyways. Everybody is counting Rambo out, but if anything, they'd be wrong. So here is where Banks is to tell both Rambo and Co. That they've been at this camp only for a week, that they keep ending up getting moved around. They seem to have to be like put into doing like farm duty or something like that. Uh, and so uh, oh, they've been harvesting crops. So Banks goes on to tell Rambo that they've been doing this for a year, supposedly. But then Banks asks Rambo what year it is. And so Rambo says 1985. And Banks doesn't have a response to that. Maybe he can't remember what year it actually was that he's been here for, or something. But either way, yeah, like maybe he's probably going to realize that he's been there for too long of a time. So, and if anything, we as an audience can figure that out also, that he's been there for too long. So Coe and Rambo say to one another that they didn't think that they were going to go on and get any POWs out of this, that they thought that maybe there was going to be nothing to come from this mission, but they'd be wrong. So as Rambo, Co, and Banks, as there's consistent shifting back and forth of whether Banks is getting carried or not, because every time we cut to coming back to Rambo and Co again, like it's always just very inconsistent. But I get it. Like if anything, yeah, like it kind of shows that time is passing, but then also it's like, do you really think that Stallone should be carrying Banks the whole time? It kind of gets like to be like, yeah, that would be just a lot on Sylvester, if anything, for how much they probably have to kind of keep filming and carrying this guy. So it makes a lot of sense, just for filming's sake. So Coe and Rambo and Banks make their way to the pirate ship to to get back to the extraction point. And as that is going on and happening, we have Murdoch, that is kind of manning the mission of the helicopter being sent off to extract Rambo. So as this boat goes on, we have the Vietnamese soldiers that are to see after it. So we would come to find that the pirates had gone on to sell out both Coe and Rambo and Banks here, and they thrust guns upon Rambo, and Rambo has to take it on himself to have little knives in the back of his clothing, and he takes them out. He stabs into the guy that's behind him with this shotgun, takes the shotgun after treating this guy like a body shield to where he gets shot in the back. Rambo starts going on, taking the shotgun and blow away the pirates and kill them. So we would see off in the distance that the Vietnamese soldier boat is trying to chase after the pirate boat. So there is to be blasting away this twin heavy machine gun that is to have Rambo force both Banks and both Coe to jump out of the boat to avoid getting shelled here. Rambo drops to the ground and is to rush to the secret hiding place of the rocket launchers. So, or the bazooka, whatever that is to be called. The bazooka? Bazooka. No, the bazooka is a completely different thing. The rocket launcher, I think, is better here. So, because bazooka is this, where like the rocket launcher is this, where it's like an actual gun. My apologies. So, Rambo gets out the rocket launcher, fires away, explodes the Vietnamese boat, and so the Vietnamese people on the boat have died, and the Vietnamese boat is just floating to now the pirate boat ever so slowly. So Rambo is to try to get off the pirate boat now, but he is to be grabbed and choked by one of the pirates still alive. Rambo, to have gone on and still had his knife on him, goes on and stabs this guy underneath him and twists the knife and whatever to evade being choked here. And shortly thereafter, that goes on and jumps from the boat as the two boats simultaneously are to go on and explode here, just in the nick of time. Coe is to probably think that Rambo might have been killed here or might have not jumped out right at the best time. So Rambo plops in the water and then Coe's like, oh, he's still alive. The three of them reunite, they get on the shore and they start walking off. So So Rambo goes on and gives Ko a gun, and Ko doesn't want to leave Rambo. She's like, "Well, hey, I want to make sure that I want to stay till all this is resolved. This is to the end of it all." And Rambo tells her this is the end. So here's the gun. Like we're gonna get you guys extracted, and this is gonna be over. So here's where Ko tells Rambo that he's not expendable, and so here's where then we have the Vietnamese soldiers that are still trying to track where Rambo is. And by the time Rambo and Banks get to the absolute extraction point, and then the only ones left because Ko is to be off on her own to eventually help Rambo out later. Uh, we have Erickson and Troutman on the helicopter who's timing exactly how soon they'll be there to extract Rambo. So Tay goes on to have what looks like I want to call them uh, like mini cannons that shoot off these rockets. So it's kind of like a cannon rocket launcher, which is just strange to even try to say here. Uh, these same things had also been used in the Bill Murray uh, Harold Ramis movie Stripes at some point, where they're practicing to use these things and they accidentally um, take one of these rockets and they position it to a point where they blow up something accidentally within the movie Stripes, and that's what I'm trying to. If you've never seen the movie Stripes, you'll have no idea what I'm saying here. But like this thing has been used in a plethora of different kinds of movies. But anyways, so these are mini cannons with missile rocket things that kind of get shot off of it. So Rambo and Banks continue to run through this field, and all these explosions are going off. And so Troutman is the first to notice, hey, that's Rambo. Oh my God, he's found a POW. So Lifer now has to go on and now needs to also kind of defend the chopper and fire off against some Vietnamese people. So we have the radio technician, who I know is actually to be at some point in the credits somewhere, but heaven forbid I actually look that up and see what his actual name is. Or what the technical term of it is. I'll just say radio technician. So the radio technician tells Murdoch that they found an American POW, and he gets so excited as well. Everyone else starts to be like, "Yeah, he did it. You're right." And Murdoch is telling everybody to scramble out of there because, of course, he's going to go on and have his own agenda, so they don't have to continue this mission. And he doesn't want everyone to hear what he's doing, what his plan is. So Murdoch gets on the radio, and he tells them that they are going to abort the mission immediately. And Erickson is to go on to confirm the abort of the mission. So Troutman, of course, still overhear the whole abort of the mission. Troutman is trying to conflict with that, but Erickson is to be the one that has Lifer put a gun to Troutman and eventually they fly off. Rambo goes on like, hey, come on, like you're right there, come on. And so he is hoping that the helicopter is going to land, and it doesn't, and it just flies off. So after it flies off, all the Vietnamese soldiers circle around Rambo, and there's nothing to do at this point but to give up. Ko, looking off in the distance, is to just in disbelief that Rambo is to probably end up getting killed here, or is to probably be taken as a POW like everyone else is, or everyone else has been. So, and if you guys don't know what POW is, of course, it's prisoner of war. I probably should have said that at some point, because some people may not know what a POW is because they don't get what the initial is. Because some people don't know military terms or whatever. And there is also this like program where it's like POW MIA, prisoner of war, missing in action. There's a lot of kind of at some points I always go on and I'm afraid of what just military lingo I just kind of throw out there, because some people are probably going like, what the heck does that mean? Because not everyone is in the know. Like, if anybody could probably go into a military like movie, and I'm just throwing out a bunch of stuff that I'm to know through just a number of just stuff going on in my life, and you're to just be like, what the heck does any of that mean? It's just because I've gone on and just have a lifetime of experience of a father who was in the Navy, and he just throws this stuff out all the time willy nilly, and doesn't even think to confirm with me if I know what it is. And so at some points I would have to look it up after the fact, or I would just go on and just be like, I don't know what you're saying, and then he wouldn't tell me what it is anyways. So I'm just like, okay, well. Like, I guess I had to just be somehow in the military and just be in the know. So that would go on and just be kind of my frustration of just of living with a person who tells me stories that I have to go on and continue to ask him. It's like, well, what does that mean? Because I don't know what acronyms or whatever of at some points. But anyways, so pushing on here. So now we cut to Trotman thrusting his way to Murdoch, very upset for how they left Rambo there to die. So both Trotman and Murdoch are having this whole back and forth here, where Trotman is going on and talking about how much large amounts of funding would have to be made to try and recover lost soldiers, and Murdoch knows it and is to just be as much to cover up as he's gone on to hear about it in the past. And so, and it's all about money. And so that's why Murdoch is so unwilling to, from the get-go, like, well, he's forced to do this mission, but he hopes that it never succeeds, because he knows he would have to spend military money to find these people. And then Rambo, by the end of the movie, is telling Murdoch, it's like, well, hey, if you know that these people are out there, find them, or I'll find you, and puts the fear of God in him. But anyways, so I'm kind of way over simplifying this entire dialogue between both Trotman and Murdoch, but I really want to go on and fast track all of this because it's already getting to almost like an hour and 30 minutes within this film. So I'm heavily trying to just condense and cliff note this. So, but if anything, Murdoch by the end of this is telling, hey, Trotman, yeah, I'm going to pretend that this whole conversation never took place, so that way, like, you won't get in trouble. And so Tropman is saying, it's like, well, you've made a really big mistake, and Murdoch is like, well, what is that? And Tropman is like, Rambo. Rambo is your biggest mistake. You're underestimating him. Like, so we now cut to Rambo now dangling in chains, uh, right below this dirty leech-filled thing of water, and like this water is so brown, like, and gross. So Rambo is going on and just hanging from this curved wooden piece of chains. And the next thing we see is another helicopter coming in. And this is to not be from the hero side, it's to be from the villain side. So, well, like, I don't want to call the Russians the villains here, but, like, we have people that are to go up against Rambo, so what else could I call them? The adversaries, the whatever. Either way, it doesn't look good for Rambo, supposedly here, I guess, in the story. So, all of a sudden, we have this massive group of Russians that all come in here. We have Podolsky, we have Yushin, and so Podolsky goes on and looks at Rambo. It's like, well, hey, I don't know you yet, but I will. And so Podolsky goes on and starts taking I think either Rambo's knife or his knife, and he starts cutting away the leeches away from Rambo's body. And Podolsky says, okay, clean him up and bring him with me. So Rambo is to be taken to this radio room, and immediately when Rambo is put into this chair, he ends up getting hit or ends up getting hurt. And Podolsky's like, oh, so you're good with pain, or like, or something like that. You can tolerate pain. Good, good. So, or you're no stranger to it. That's what he says. So, Podolsky is to find out how quiet Rambo is. And so Podolsky is like, well, how about you give me your name? Like, if anything, give me your name. Like, it won't matter. Uh, so, uh, Podolsky is to tell Rambo that he should radio his people and say that he has gone on to do some espionage like activities because he's kind of a spy here on enemy soil. And that if anything, his headquarters or the people who have sent him here should never go on and do something like this ever again in the future. Or they will meet the same fate as Rambo, which I guess will mean that Rambo will be killed or tortured or left for dead. Rambo gives Podolsky the good old you, and so we of course have Podolsky that hands Rambo over to Yushin. So here's where we have Ko, who gets a wardrobe change and is to pretend that she is one of these ladies of the night that are to be contracted to do some certain adult activities. This girl comes in and starts touching on the guards, and they start touching on her, and they let her in, assuming that she is to, of course, be contracted to service these men. The next thing we see is Rambo getting tortured on this, what looks like box spring that has no bed aspect of it. It's just the metal piece of the box spring. So, the spring part of box spring. So, Rambo is getting electrified, and we see the lights flickering back and forth. So, the more that they do this, we have at one point where Podofsky is tell Rambo, it's like, it's okay to scream. Like, there's no shame in it. So, as Rambo is getting electrified and tortured, it seems that Podofsky is to find a radio frequency that he had intercepted that was talking about the abortion or the abort of the mission that Rambo was going to get extracted from. And so Podofsky is to say to Rambo, it's like, these people don't care about you, but you're still trying to protect them? Makes no sense. Like, like, why are you willing to protect them? But so, realizing that Rambo will not get broken here, no matter what they do, no matter how many times that Yushin punches him and hurts him and what have you, Podofsky goes on and chokes him. Rambo isn't going to go on and give in to that. So, what they do is they bring in Banks. So, they drop Banks down and they take Rambo's knife and they burn the the knife's tip, or the dagger's tip. And I don't get what the difference is between, like, the blade is already sharp. What difference is that the tip of it is to be heated? Like, I guess it's to be more of a definitive scar? Like, I don't know. I don't get what the huge difference of heating it. Like, is it just, does it hurt more? Like, I guess it would probably, right? So Yushin goes on and carves up Rambo's face, and then they make their way to Banks, and they're continuing to say which eye that Banks will be left with. So, the longer that this goes on, we have Rambo that finally relents and says that he will give in, as Ko is going on through the camp and starting to take out some of the camp soldiers here. So, Banks is telling Rambo not to do it, and of course, Podofsky is telling him otherwise. Rambo goes on to inevitably grab the microphone, and he, like, gets to a point where his hands have to really grasp on this thing. Once he goes on to start calling and ends up getting Trotman at first. And then Rambo is to call for Murdoch. Murdoch then answers. And then here's where Rambo goes on. Is Murdoch, I'm coming for you. Yeah. And right after that, Rambo takes the microphone, smashes it into Yushin, and starts to try and make an escape here. And Ko is to be right underneath the place of which that Rambo is, and she starts to fire off from the floor into one of the soldiers, but she doesn't know exactly where he is. But she does go on and just take him out. So Rambo thrusts Yushin into the mattress or the box spring and electrifies him, cranks it all the way to the highest, and then Rambo and Ko try to make their escape here. So Rambo and Ko unite here, and Rambo starts to get a grenade and is to be handed. I think he ends up either getting handed weapons or he takes weapons upon himself. So they try to make a run for it, the two of them, and so Rambo gets to this barbed wire fence, and I know what a lot of people are thinking, like, "Oh my god, that barbed wire fence! It probably really destroyed Stallone's hands." Yes and no, because more than likely, one, this barbed wire may have gotten like trimmed in a way to where, like, if Rambo was to go on and kind of touch it just so, that it may not have affected his hands that badly, but still, like, he's still going on and still grabbing onto barbed wire. And he's doing it in a very, like, he's doing it. This is at night. How is he going to see any of this? It probably hurts his hands anyways. So Ko gets under the fence, and then shortly thereafter, Rambo gets under the fence also. Uh, so Ko and Rambo are running through the forest, and this helicopter is chasing after them with a light to try to track them down because this is very late. So we ultimately get a transition into daybreak again. So Murdoch is going on and making his way to the fan, as it seems that Troutman is making his way into the hangar base. So Ko and Rambo are talking to one another, and Ko is saying to Rambo about how he looks like hell, and Rambo's like, "Yeah, tough night." Because we can turn back to Podolsky, who had just talked about how Rambo was to have gone on and been near death as he was getting electrified. So Ko is to look at Rambo's hands, and because of the barbed wire, she goes on and rips away her dress to bandage Rambo's wounds. So Ko is wondering what the plan is now. And if anything, they're possibly thinking about escaping to make their way to America. And Ko is asking if Rambo is going to have Ko come with him. And the two of them kiss, and Rambo agrees to take Ko with him. Shortly thereafter that, Ko starts to walk off immediately to be met by a Vietnamese soldier that guns her down and kills her. Shortly thereafter that, we have Rambo with his gun to blast away the Vietnamese soldier, killing him. Rambo makes his way back to Ko and tells her she's going to be all right, and Ko is like, "Never forget me." So Ko, of course, dies here sadly. R.I.P. Ko, we love you. So Rambo goes on and is to take things to remember Ko. He takes her Lucky Charm necklace, which I guess wasn't as lucky as we thought that it was going to be, but he takes it anyways to remember her. And here's where Rambo shifts from his black bandana to then his red bandana, or really just a part of Ko's dress to remember her forever. Uh, or I guess just in this movie, because he'll move on to other bandanas. So Trotman makes his way to the hangar to say at this point that he is going to go on and he's going to make his own extraction mission, that he's going to uh, have his own rescue mission to be made because he knows that there is a POW there. He's seen it with his own eyes, and he knows that Rambo is now still alive within that area. So Trotman is even at this point saying that he will even go over Murdoch's head to get this done. And Murdoch is telling Trotman that he's the one in charge, that if anything, Trotman is just a fixture, he's just a tool. And if anything, if Trotman goes on and keeps arguing, Murdoch will be glad to have him under arrest. To where Trotman replies with, "Yeah, Rambo never had a chance to be successful in this mission, did he?" So Murdoch replies with, "Well, Rambo is to do the thing that you said that he was going to do. He went home." So Rambo goes on and gets the necklace, gets the bandana, and then finds his bow and arrow and gets it out of the dirt. God, like, Stallone is so, like, if he's not severely veiny in this film, he is in incredible shape in this movie. I get it that he has to be shirtless through this thing, but, like, god dang, like, I think he was even in better shape in this film than he was in a good chunk of the Rockies. Um, but, like, I get it that, like, these guys have to go on and have these, like, crazy bodies for these action films. Um, but yeah, but, like, just alone, just, like, he's either big, massive, and muscular and whatever, or he just looks so effing slim that it just gets me a little jelly. So, uh, so we make our way further into this film as Rambo is now through the jungle, and he starts to one by one start to take out quietly these German and Vietnamese soldiers. Uh, there's a lot of times where these soldiers are getting grabbed from behind and kind of like face palmed and dragged away. Uh, there's spots where Rambo is arrowing them and hitting them in the chest and taking them down. Uh, Rambo goes on to eventually take I guess what looks like a trap or a rope of some kind and ropes one of the guys and drags him away and then kind of grabs him and pulls him off to the side. There's a moment where there's a guy that is just kind of looking around, and we come to find that Rambo is in full on mud and dirt, kind of like Arnold was in Predator, but if anything, like Rambo is very much incognito. He's blending into this like just dirt uh, mound that is to be behind this guy, and Rambo comes up from behind him, chokes him, and takes him out here. So Rambo is to inevitably go on and make his way through this village, and there's to be a stack of enemy forces that are going on and coming to Rambo. We'd see a bunch of these truck style like jeeps that are driving to this bridge to try to get to Rambo. The increasing of numbers are trying to get to Rambo here, and here is when Rambo is to start to use explosives. There is at one point where these Vietnamese people start to follow Rambo uh, through this field of what looks like long-standing weeds or grass or whatever this is. This some kind of field where it's to be blocked of view in front of them. And so these Vietnamese guys start to make their way through this field to see more and more blood, to inevitably find by the end of it that there is this explosive that goes off after this gasoline is to be hit. And so now we start to see this massive explosion. Rambo goes on to start using his explosive arrows, and so he starts hitting the enemy camp. He starts hitting the jeeps that are on the bridge, and explosive after explosive starts happening here. So Rambo goes on to see Tay, and the two of them have a bit of a battle here. Tay goes on and starts blasting Rambo with his gun, and then immediately switches to his pistol. Rambo tries to hit Tate with this arrow, and eventually he does hit him with this explosive arrow, and he explodes, and you could just see his guts go flying. Rambo then turns to see a helicopter with Yushin in it. So Yushin's helicopter has this massive explosive that looks to be in this like very weird cylinder that Rambo is now running away from as it drops, as it makes this massive explosion. I have no idea what this weird goofy cylinder thing actually is, because I'm like, what the heck is that? So the helicopter is to scan to see if Rambo is still alive, and they start to look around the water. Rambo jumps out of the water, grabs one of the Russians that are in the back of this helicopter, takes said Russian out. Yushin is to take off his headset and start to battle with Rambo. And like, we really just see a lot of choking done by Yushin here, but then inevitably Yushin gets behind Rambo, and Rambo does a lot of like back elbows, and they're kind of both kind of hunched over here. So at a point, Yushin does go on and have Rambo onto the ground of the chopper and starts choking him out. But inevitably, Rambo does go on and get the better of Yushin and thrusts him out of the helicopter and kills him here. And then Rambo starts to kill all of the Russians and kind of chuck them out of the chopper, and then he takes over. So Rambo makes his way back to the Vietnamese base to just blow everything up. He fires away at everything. He uses all of his missiles and guns at his disposal. We just continue to see being blown up here at this point. it's just a lot of that. Like, I would want to be in very much more specifics, but if anything, like, it's just a lot of just us seeing uh camp after, or we're just seeing kind of uh housing after tower after this or that just getting exploded, and there isn't much to really need to want to go in heavy amount of detail, as well as also just wanting to rush to get this done. So the POWs are going on and watching as Rambo is is crushing this entire village. And we would of course go on, and as Rambo continues his slaughter, he's in the chopper, he's yelling, he's being aggressive, yeah, yeah, very manly and what have you. So if I haven't said that already, that this is like the manliest of manly movies. So all right. So after all of the explosions in the villages to be going on, to just shot after shot of booms and pals and what have yous. So Rambo takes this big gun with him and is to start firing off at the enemy, and is to thrust his way to make it to the POWs and uncage them. He fires off the cage with his big massive gun and then tells everybody to make their way, move, 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 get to the chopper. Not in the Arnold way, get to the chopper. No, he just tells him to get to the chopper. So, because that's what I was thinking in the back of my head, Predator. So, we have at one point where there is a German soldier that is down on the ground, and he is to slowly but surely build to his gun. So, as Rambo is at the chopper, yelling at everybody to keep moving to get into the chopper, one of the German soldiers gets up and guns down one of the POWs and has him fall over. Rambo takes action to kill the POW, or kills the German soldier, and then they all stack into the helicopter. So I think at one point, Rambo is yelling for somebody to man the gun, um, so that way he can just keep focusing on flying. So now we have this German, Russian. I apologize for the confusion, or like Russian and Germany is not the same thing. I apologize, but I just kind of all the time, by the very end of every one of these reviews, I always get confused. There's always some things of just words that I just kind of just don't get processed right in my brain. The longer and longer I talk, I apologize. But anyways, so Russian. I'm Russian. So uh, we have the Russian chopper that has all these missiles and is to be very much more like weaponized than Rambo's chopper, that is going on and now following Rambo. And so Rambo is now going on and having to duck and weave to avoid the attacks going on by Podolsky's Russian chopper. So inevitably there is the chase of that. So at some point, Banks goes on and starts blasting away at the Russian chopper and takes down some of the gunmen that are in the back of said chopper. And we have at one point where the Russian chopper causes a fire going on in Rambo's chopper. So there is at a point where Podolsky ends up getting separated from Rambo's chopper, and he's a little bit confused about what exactly had happened. So all of a sudden, Podolsky sees Rambo's chopper and it's down on the ground, and it seems that Rambo, it looks like, is to be knocked out or he's probably dead. So, and there is also a big uh, hole in the windshield, and so Podolsky gets ever so close to the helicopter, gets ready to launch one of his missiles to take finally the helicopter out and be done with Rambo, to all of a sudden have Rambo thrust out this bazooka, launch at the Russian chopper, and take it out at close combat, which was great, which is really smart. So Rambo looks back at the POW that had gotten shot, and it doesn't really seem that he has probably made it. It looks like he might have died. Not quite sure. If it honestly doesn't really matter past a certain point, anyways. If anything, there's just a bunch of random POWs within this helicopter. Sadly enough, R.I.P. POW if you did die in this film. So Rambo is to make his way back to base, and so at least he's going on and calling them ahead of time to let them know he's coming. So Rambo calls himself Lone Wolf to Wolf Den, and that he's letting them know that he has a number of POWs and for them to be ready to take care of them. And that's the reason why he's calling ahead of time, to just be like, hey, yeah, I'm dropping off all these POWs. Like, you guys got to be sure to give them medical attention as they arrive. Everybody, what's going on and hearing that, is to be so excited, and Murdoch is to just be running off in terror at this point. So Troutman is kind of taking command here and telling everybody, hey, let's get prepared for those POWs. Let's move. So everybody starts to scatter. So as a helicopter that is seemingly on its last smoky legs does go on and land at the base, and now everybody is scrambling to get the POWs out, and Rambo goes on and grabs this big, huge, massive gun and meets up with both Troutman and Erickson. Erickson goes on to tell Rambo, hey, glad that you're back. And Rambo gut kicks Erickson and moves and doesn't say anything. So Rambo sees all of the equipment that was to be used for his mission, that, like they had said in the early part of the movie, where Murdoch was to go on and say, yeah, all this technology that we spent so much money on, this is all for your mission. And Rambo goes on at the end of this scene and takes a gun to all of it. He guns it all down because his mission is now over, and they're not going to use this technology for anything else now, are they? So, because they're not going to go on and find any more POWs because they're so unwilling to. So Rambo guns down this entire area, yelling and screaming, firing off the gun into the air. So Rambo then finds Murdoch, takes out his knife, and Murdoch is trying to say how, like, he's trying to save face. He's like, yeah, I didn't know this was all going to happen like it was, and this and that. So Rambo grabs Murdoch, takes his knife, and is going to lunge at Murdoch, but instead hits the table. And here's, of course, where he says mission accomplished. You know there's more men out there. You know where they are. Find them or I'll find you. So Rambo, after that, leaves the hangar to then see guys like Troutman and everyone else who was taking after the POWs. And as Rambo starts to walk off, Trotman is kind of chasing after him. So Trotman is asking Rambo what he's going to do after this, and tells him that he's going to get another Medal of Honor. And Rambo's like, I don't want it. Give it to them. Like, if anything, they deserve it more than I do. So Trotman tells Rambo if he's just going to keep running, if he's just going to be a drifter for the rest of his life. And asks him, like, what does he really have left to go back to? So so Trotman goes on and asks Rambo what exactly he wants, and Rambo is like, well, I want what they want. I want my country to love me as much as we love it. And Trotman says, how are you going to live? And Rambo's like, day by day. And then he walks off, and then credits roll. Whew! Yeah. Normally I'd go on at the end of every one of these videos and just be tempted to just go on a rant and just say a bunch of stuff that no one really is going to care about. Probably like the end of these videos are probably not a lot that people really care about. But every once in a while I'm still going on and finding people that somehow can just find these videos to be funny and just enjoy them. And eventually it seems I'm continuing to find people that are subscribing, and I'm very grateful. So, if anything, this point you're not going to get the ticked off or very much like I can't figure out and I can't find my way kind of guy at the end of this video. If anything, I'm just going to go on and just say that at least I feel that one way or another that I feel that what I'm doing is bizarre, but otherwise somehow it's still going to slowly but surely somehow still work out in the end. That for some oddballish reason, I am to find ways to try to have fun on these things and try to be a person that feels like at least I know what I'm talking about, or at least um, my reviews, or at least in the very early stages of it, something that is just different enough for people to care, or knowledgeable enough to where people will appreciate it. Um, I'm not asking everybody to watch the whole videos. Like, I'm not watching, or I'm not asking everybody um, to uh, always give me suggestions all the time. I'm just saying at this point that uh, whatever you're doing, I hope someone else does it also. That eventually we'll find more people, and all of this hard work, I guess, that I've been doing here will somehow pay off. And all the stuff that's been accumulating in this noggin will eventually be the thing of which that will finally get to a point of like I've justified doing this whole thing all along. I hope that that comes at some point, because otherwise, what am I doing here? So with that said, I'm gonna get that out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, buddy.